Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Friday, September 19th, 2025. Man, this felt like a long week for me. How about for y'all? Let me know in the comments. It just felt like a long week. That Fed meeting kind of let the wind out of my sails, and seeing some stuff with rate sheets and just social media and some things that are kind of bothering me that we don't need to go into. So I realize it's not gonna get us anywhere. So anyway, good morning, y'all. My name is Hammer. I am the guy that has a few different platforms and products to help you as an originator to get more business. We got Originator Success to help you get found on Google AI search and build your online branding, generate reviews, and stay in touch with past clients and real estate agents. We got Grab and Go Social, which is, you got it, content and coaching for using social media to go out and get business. And then we got Rate Sensei, which is our rate market stuff. And we'll have some new stuff coming out hopefully by the middle of the fourth quarter, maybe the end of the fourth quarter, to help you get loans and work more with the rate stuff. So remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. This is kind of Hammer's Hangout. It is a little bit water cooler, a little bit rate stuff, and I'm glad to have you here. We broadcast on Facebook and YouTube. If you're here this morning, say good morning. If you are watching on the replay, do me a favor, just put hashtag replay in the comments. I noticed a lot of people are on YouTube and they don't put hashtag replay because you don't always know how to get to the comments on your phone, and that's okay. It does help with the algorithm, though, if you do figure it out, or it definitely at least give us a thumbs up on that as well. And if you would like to be reminded of that I'm going live, we just send out a text message each morning at hmmr.io/reminder. You could sign up for that. No nefarious purposes of how we use your phone number. It's just there for you. If you need it, hmmr.io/reminder. We'll send you out a text message. You can even use this cool, here it is, QR code over here. And if you're on your phone right now, you can actually take a screenshot and then go back to the photos and use that, and that'll help you. So if you're here this morning, say good morning. Let's say hi to all of our live friends here this morning. Michael Love, Mallory Fotiadis, good morning. Monica Dinkins, Mike Tebow, Kyle Mazikis, Megan Bissell, Rob Stewart, Mike Brown, Thomas Wolf, good morning all. Yasmin Martin, how is it going at your new place, Yasmin? Yasmin said she has been unpacking in her new place. I remember you were moving last weekend, so congratulations again. How's that going for you? Mallory Fotiadis, good morning. Randy Teakle, did you long walk? Are you talking about the Stephen King story that was recently turned into a movie? Because it can feel like that for sure. That's a story, a short story. Was that a Night Shift? I think was where that was. Somebody Google that for me and see the short story Long Walk. What book was that in for Stephen King's anthologies of short stories? I think it was in Night Shift. But I remember reading that when I was like, I don't know, 12, 13, 14. Good morning, Mike Morano, Matt Rasner. Monica Dinkins said, yeah, glad it's over. Thanks for yesterday's lock advice. Should have locked Monday. Well, I mean, there's, hindsight's always 2020. Going into the Fed meeting, I think it was perfectly all right to float into the Fed meeting, but we've seen, and I'm actually going to talk about that. I've seen rate sheets that are a little out of whack, according to what I'm seeing here. Good morning, Krista. Rob Smith, Robert Bashir. Sadly, not looking forward to next week. The 10-year just going up and up. Any good news coming out next week? I will go over all of that with you now. Let's use that, Robert. Let's jump in and let's talk about what we got going on next week. So first and foremost, let's start with a little bit of a recap on what happened yesterday. Oops, that's the wrong screen. Got to put it here. Okay, there we go. Yesterday, mortgage-backed securities. Let me zoom in on this, and then nope, I got to refresh it now. There you go. Okay, so yesterday, as we were doing the show, bonds were going down and down and down and down. And I told Randy that I did not think we would see a rebound or a recovery. And it wasn't necessarily for the day, it just means longer term. And I still stand by that. So, but we did see some recovery through the morning a little bit, not enough that we saw any real reprices better. I don't think any but the most aggressive wholesale lenders. And then that kind of petered out by the end of the day. And again, we're see all this movement. You're seeing definitely this is just kind of profit taking. It's not a sign of any bigger movement is where I'm kind of going with that. This morning, mortgage-backed securities were down a little bit to start the day. They're improving a little bit. We're down a couple of basis points, right around 101.05. And what I wanted to show you is take a look here. When you look at where we were at Tuesday, September 9th. All right. So yeah, and actually I can stay on this one and talk about that. So rate sheets seem to have moved from overly good to overly bad. So on like Monday, we were up to 101.29. Tuesday, we were at 101.27. When you look at Mortgage News Daily for the 15th, and then all of a sudden into the 16th, look at that improvement. Look at that jump that we saw. And when you look at bonds, it doesn't really coordinate. You know, the previous Friday, we were at 101.12. Then we were at 101.29. Then 101.27. But yet, when you look at what Mortgage News Daily said happened with bonds, we went from 6.29 to 6.25. So that makes a little bit of sense. When you look at, we went from 101.12 to 101.29. And then it was like the next day, there was a big jump, much bigger than what I would have expected to see. And, so yeah, you could say like Monday, Tuesday's rate sheets were here. And then we kind of Wednesday after the Fed meeting, they do these after the Fed meeting, we kind of bump back up. And then Thursday, look at this. This makes no sense to me. We are not that far off on bonds. When you look at where we're at 101.05, and we were at 101.12 last Friday. 101.12. You're talking 7 basis points. There's 7 basis points different here. Yesterday we were at 101.6. There's 6 basis points difference between these 2 days. And yet, according to what I'm seeing here, look at the difference here. You're seeing a huge jump. This doesn't make sense to me. This is not, I mean, you can argue about whatever you want, but this just too much of a reaction. Way too much of a reaction here. I don't agree with it. Which gives me a little bit of hope that we won't see things move too much from here. Now, today, rate sheets should be similar to yesterday. The argument being, if we take a look at where we were at yesterday, mortgage-backed securities ended the day around 101.06. Right now, we're at 101.05. When price came out yesterday, we were around 101. So you're actually up about 5 basis points now versus when pricing was coming out, yesterday. That should give us a little bit of improvement on the day. Maybe we'll recover a little bit from that 6.37. But then I wanted to compare, when you look between the trackers, what are y'all seeing in your actual rate sheets? Because when I look at Mortgage News Daily, he showed a big jump. But when I look at Optimal Blue, it's not nearly that bad. I mean, you're looking at Friday was 6.26. Then you drop down to 6.17, right? So, and then now we're back up to 6.26 basically. So this shows that we're about the same as last Friday. Mortgage News Daily shows much higher than last Friday. Now, it's here. The only argument is that this can include points. So it's not like just a base pricing. This is basically what loans locked in at, and we don't know what points and fees were charged to get there. So, and then when you look at where we've gone, it isn't that bad. Now, taking a look, and I'll use Mortgage News Daily for some consistency here. Let's turn off everything else, right? If we take a look at the outlook, by the way, reprice risk today is moderate. Bonds could continue to drift. We're just seeing this kind of movement, this back and forth, up and downish kind of movement here. Keep that in mind. As far as rate outlook, and I'll answer your questions in a minute. Randy, let me just finish my thought here. Looking for rates to hold here, but could move higher. And we definitely need to see, like, look at what's going on with mortgage bonds, right? If we can stay right about here in this range, then we're going to see rate sheets that stay. However, if like this, if we're falling below that, we could actually end up, arguably, we could end up in a scenario. The first range would be about here. And then we would actually have the secondary range, which would be all the way down to here, which would be like this. So we could, in theory, we could see bonds. They're either going to kind of hold to what we've got going on here, right? And hopefully this is what we see. This is hopefully what we see happen. But if not, then we're looking at, they could come down and settle into this area here. That would bring rates up. And then the worst case would be down here. What we're not going to see is, we're not going to see rates shoot back up into the sevens like we did last year. It is still a very different scenario, but we are going to get that. Randy, let's go through some of what y'all are talking about now. So sadly, not looking forward to next week. Yep, we talked about that. Refi folks always slow to take action, except for those who were too slow last year. Yeah, and that's why I have said multiple times on record, and I'll continue to say it now. It's always windows. This year is all about windows. You're not going to see rates go down and stay down. There's windows and pockets, and that's why you have to be touching base with consumers in those windows and pockets to get those loans. Randy said, did lenders get a big shot of business and not want more business? It's possible. I mean, there's definitely some that did get a nice little boom from the loans that were coming in the refis, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case, that it was enough that they would push down. I mean, it's certainly possible. So we'll see where things settle. I know that Logan Motoshami was talking about the spreads between the 10-year and mortgage bonds, but I'm talking about mortgage bonds and rate sheet pricing. I'm not even talking about, the 10-year and mortgage-backed securities. So speaking of the 10-year, though, let's go ahead and talk about that for a minute. It's about 4.12. That is, you can see that it has moved significantly higher here, right? And that's why this is definitely a big indicator. Until we see it crest and come back down, you're not going to see mortgage rates have really the ability to improve much. So remember something, we had a really, really nice window right here where things got crazy, happy, improved. And that runs from September 2nd to September 5th. And you saw that in mortgage-backed securities, September 2nd, September 5th. So we saw that same behavior here. And what we could see happen is we could see that bonds continue to climb up back into this range right here. Oops, hold on. I got too many things going on. Right here, which is what we saw in August. And basically that would put rates back where we saw in August in the mid sixes, 6.5, 6.625 before loan level price adjustments. Again, using Mortgage News Daily as a reference point. This is about a quarter to 3/8 higher than what we were looking at right now. So that's the possibility, and we want to keep an eye on that. If the 10-year starts to come up here into this range, then you're looking at mortgage bonds that are going to drop down into, the August range, which was all right here. And that was, right around 100-ish, 130-ish. That's right around here. And that's a lot of room for things to drop down to, because you're talking about coming all the way down to here. That is possible. So that's why, as far as lock advice goes, secondary has no cajones. Yeah. As far as lock advice, let me throw it up on the screen. Anything closing the next couple of weeks, I would absolutely be locking, because it's unlikely that we're looking at a positive bounce coming for any reason. There's just nothing happening right now that would point to that. The question is, are we going to stay kind of in this area here, or are we going to see things continue to worsen? And because of that, that's there. Next week, and by the way, I was talking about PCE data being this Friday. I looked at the calendar wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought it was odd that it was so close after the meeting, but we've seen that happen before. So the PCE data comes next Friday, and what we've got going on between now and then. Let me make this smaller. We'll load up that economic calendar here. So no, that's not what I want. I don't want the layout. I want the. There it is. I don't know why I can't see that without economic calendar. Okay. So today, nothing going on. That's kind of the gist of where we're at today. There's nothing that's happening here. But if we take a look at next week, it's all Fed speakers. All Fed speakers. So you got all Fed speakers on Monday. You've got all Fed speakers on Tuesday, including Powell. You've got, really just there's a 2-year and 5-year note auction going on Wednesday, but that's nothing really to get excited about. Thursday, more Fed speaking, 7-year note auction. We're going to have jobless claims, of course, but I mean, just everybody's out talking next week, multiple times even. And then on Friday, we're going to have the PCE data for real. So my bad that I said it was this Friday. It's actually next Friday, but it's not going to move markets either. So no, there's really nothing going on here. And I want to get into the Fed speaking bit a little bit more with you. Krista said government doesn't want rates lower until there is more inventory. If they go too low, then they would be in multiple offers. Since we have 1.5 million buyers, if they go too low, then we'd be back where we were. Well, I mean, the government, they've got their own reason why they want rates to be lower. They want rates to ease the national debt burden here. Why the Fed rate cut won't ease the government's debt problem. Move will likely reduce U.S. borrowing costs for short-term Treasury, but longer term, it's not doing anything. So for bonds that are farther out, what I wanted to show you is a couple different things going on. So okay. So this was a really interesting article that I was reading in Barron's. So the Fed just trimmed rates, but don't get too excited. Now, again, as we get into that article, I want to point out to you the market is currently pricing in for October. If we take a look right here, for October, it's a 90% expectation that we're going to see another rate cut in October. In December, markets are pricing in an 80% additional cut. So this is one cut. Markets do not believe at all. There's almost none, less than 1% expectation that the Fed is going to be a one and done rate cut. There's a little bit of a hedge that it could be 2 and done. But most markets are pricing in, most are pricing in 3 or more. But when we take a look at this article from Barron's, the jobs data prompted the move has turned increasingly worrisome. Last week, the BLS revised down payroll gains by 911,000 in the 12 months through March, revealing the economy created less than half the positions initially reported. Uncertainty about the economic outlook remains elevated, the Fed said in its statement. By the way, some people can't take a joke. I actually did get some negative comments about my I'll pull it up this way, about my Fed, about my Trump White House putting me, because we talked about this, that Trump taking credit for mortgage rates falling, and then and there's LOs. There's what, I don't care if people get pissed at me anymore. I really don't. There's LOs that are like defending it like he did something. He didn't do anything. The reason mortgage rates would get low is because the economy is weakening and the labor market weakens. That's why you would see that. He didn't do anything. But anyway, where I was going with this and this article, it talks about how, that this was Fed uncertainty about the economy outlook remains elevated, the Fed said in its statement. The committee is attentive to the risks to both sides of its dual mandate. Remember, the dual mandate: maintain price stability, that's inflation, maximize employment. The committee is attentive to both sides of its dual mandate right here, and judges that downside risk to employment have risen. Okay, that's what we kind of all. But Fed Chair Jerome Powell was equally clear about what the rate cut isn't: the start of aggressive easing. And this is why, one more time to reiterate, this is why during the press conference why we saw bonds give up all the gains and actually go negative. This is the sentiment that he was there. You could think of this in a way as a risk management cut, he said at his press conference, signaling that further moves would be cautious and data dependent. The cautious stance showed up in the Fed's own projections, and this was interesting. The updated dot plot forecasts 3 cuts in 2025, which would match with what I showed you here, that markets believe we're going to see as 3 cuts, right? And the new dot plot, they should have it updated here. So the new dot plot, it's here, but look at how many blue dots there are, and then look at how many black dots there are. And is this the... I don't know if this is, oh yeah, so this is September, okay? And then this is what Barron's is actually talking about here. The updated dot plot forecasts 3 cuts up from 2 after the June dot plot. But the outlook reveals deep uncertainty among policymakers. The median forecast masks a razor-thin 10-9 split among the 19 participants. And remember who number 10 is. It's Moran, right? So he's the shill that's in from Donald. What economists call a soft median that suggests little consensus about the path ahead. The amount of dispersion in the dot plot reflects the uncertainty and two-way risks in 2025's macro environment. This is according to so-and-so, blah, 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 right? So Powell acknowledged policymakers lacked conviction in their forecasts. These are the little things that really we need to just pay attention to, because that's what brought mortgage rates to a halt, was what happened in his press conference and this part here. So if we go back and we look at the, let me refresh this so I can scroll. If we go back and we look at this over 5 days, again, look at the initial, look at this upward trend that we got after the Fed statement came out. It was like, okay, I felt like I was dialing in. We were getting our way to 101.60, which is what I thought we were going to get up to 101.60. And then instead, when Powell came in, and that's everything we're talking about here, that's when it let the air out of the tires. And then since then, we saw a little bit more trading chatter right here, but then things are kind of settling down right now is what we've seen. So that's what we got going on. That's why it's very unlikely that rates are going to improve much from here. Anybody that missed, if they needed this extra little bit right here. And I mean, again, did you guys see this much of a discrepancy? You're talking almost a quarter point here. You're going from 6 1/8 to 6 3/8. Did we see rates jump a quarter point between Tuesday and today? Are you guys seeing that on your rate sheet? Because that's not what, according to locks, it's not what we're seeing here. You know, this was 6.17, 6.25. This is an eighth basically. But according to Mortgage News Daily, they're saying it went up a quarter over the course of these couple, this bounce around. What would it take to warrant larger rate cuts? Tremendously more weakness in the labor market and inflation dropping. We would need to see the inflation reading. The CPI on October 15th would need to drop. Maybe if we saw that the tariffs got challenged and the court case came in time, that kind of a thing. So, Casey, you did see that big of a move, a quarter point higher? Casey says she saw that. Anyone else? Let me know in the comments, guys, because I'm really kind of at your whim on this. If you saw that much of a move, I'd like to know, because then I know a little bit more. Because when I look at where we're at for mortgage-backed securities, again, I showed you before, we really shouldn't be seeing that big of a differential. That's not what is in the bonds. That's what's in the rate sheet. And at the end of the day, though, it's all about the rate sheets. So that means that we could see, if we're seeing too much of an overreaction, that means we could see there's room for some improvement. There's room for some pullback. So, definitely there. Keep that going. So, all right. Well, that's it, my friends. That's our Friday. And yeah, Mike said we would need to see inflation dropping, and it would have to drop quite a bit. It would have to get down back to at or below 2% with the PCE, which we'll get that PCE next week. And it'll probably be at like 2.7. 2.8. So not where the Fed wants it to be, and not where things would be. So that's it for me, y'all. And again, thanks for joining me this week. Appreciate you. On Monday, we'll talk about what we see going on for the week. We'll see how your weekend was. What are you guys doing this week? And let me know in the comments. I'm going to see the Panthers on Sunday. And just like my forecast for anything else, I've been wrong on that one. I thought they'd be looking pretty good this year. They're 0-2, and they look bad doing it. They're going to be playing the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. My daughter and I will be at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, and we'll be tailgating and having a good time. I'm looking forward to that. My daughter is my football girl, and so I'm looking forward to that game and having a good time with her. I'll be working on the barn tomorrow. I got to get this thing done soon. At least move in ready. It won't be painted, but at least where I can start working from up there. And you guys might see some familiar faces in the next week. If you guys remember George and Sophia, the kitty cats, they have not been adopted. It's been 2 months. They're just such lovey cats, but we can't bring them in the house here because of Millie, the black cat. Millie does not like to play well with others, and it really threw her off when they were here. And so we're gonna put them in the barn. They're gonna be they're gonna be office cats in the barn. So it's not true barn cats because they're not like living in whatever. This is a finished space barn. So, and I still want to see them get adopted. I'll be fostering them, but we'll see how long that lasts. Hopefully somebody will adopt them. We'll still be putting them online, and they're lovely cats. Krista's soccer, Vicky, good morning and thank you. All right, y'all. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up. You guys have a fantastic weekend. I will see you on Monday. Bye-bye.